Hi, I'm Jamar Dawson. I briefly want to talk about firearm safety. And it's great to go over firearm safety, obviously, if you're new to shooting, or if you guys are long-time shooters. It's always good to refresh your memory with some good old safety and firearm handling tips. So, it doesn't matter if you're using a 22 long rifle, which is just the standard name for a 22 round, or a 9mm, or a 40 cal. Now these are the only three I got here today, but there's so many more calibers out there. But it doesn't matter regardless of the caliber. Even if it's a BB gun, which is around .177, it doesn't matter because anything can harm you and kill you. I know that's obvious, but it needs to be stated because too many times people play around with guns, there's too many accidents, and the consequences are really tragic and often fatal. So let's get started. Now, one of the great things about firearms is that they're all so similar. These are 3 different guns from 3 different manufacturers, and they're 3 different calibers. But at the same time, all the safety, most definitely, and primary features are identical. So whether you're using the CZ, or this Car Arms, or this Ruger pistol, the basic principles of safety and the operation of them are going to be the same. Now, this one has a safety lever. This one doesn't. But it still does not detract from the fact that the weapon can always be dangerous, it can always be deadly, as we spoke about before, and you always need to keep it pointed in the safe direction. This Ruger, it has a safety device. Basically, it's a selector switch. When it's on red, it means fire. When it's not, it's safe. But regardless, and this is what is going to be in play for these firearms, pistols, or shotguns, or rifles, or bow and arrow, it doesn't matter. The same safety law of keeping the gun pointed in a safe direction is standard. So, what does that mean? Well, let's go ahead and talk about that. One of the things I talk to most about with new shooters is keeping the gun pointed downrange. As you can see, I have a little range set up here. We want to make sure that the barrel of the gun, is pointed either downrange at all times, because we know there's nothing behind the target, or pointed at the ground at all times. We don't point it up in the air. We don't do any of that stuff. We certainly don't fire up in the air, because bullets can travel, believe it or not, for miles after they are fired. So we're going to always keep the gun in a safe direction. If I have to take my hand off the gun and use this hand for whatever reason, I'm automatically going to transfer it to this hand and keep it pointed downrange or have it pointed on the ground. So that's the first and foremost, most important thing when dealing with firearms, is keeping it pointed in a safe direction. The next thing about firearm safety is making sure you keep your finger off the trigger until you're ready to fire. Now, it might seem something that's obvious, but I've taught so many shooters, and their first instinct is to grab and put their finger right here. So they grab the weapon, put their finger in here, and think that, okay, this is what I see in the movies. And that's true. That is what you see in the movies. But at the same time, if you're handed a gun, or you find a gun somewhere, you don't know if there's one in the chamber or not. You don't know that. When I was in a concealed and carry class, they used the phrase, don't point the gun at anything that you don't want to destroy, and don't put your finger on the trigger until you're ready to destroy the thing. So keep that in mind. It's very important, because just a little bit of a trigger pull can cause the hammer to fire the weapon, and you don't want that to happen. I mean, especially if you're not ready. However, the first rule trumps all things. Alright, now this next rule is almost just like a appendix to the first rule, just an add-on. You want to keep the gun in the safe direction. And some people ask, okay, is that only downrange? Well, if you're not at a range and you have a gun out, obviously you're not going to be pointing it downrange. So what a safe direction is, I mentioned earlier, the ground. Basically what you want to do is imagine that there's a 2-foot invisible hula hoop around you at all times. And so you have the gun in a safe position like this, and you can't go inside that hula hoop. I've seen people shoot themselves in the foot. Literally, it's not a good thing. I know it hurts. I know it was painful, and I feel sorry for that person. But they didn't follow the rules, and that is make sure the gun is pointed in a safe direction. Like I said, this rule isn't really a third rule, it's just an addition to the first rule. And basically what you do, no matter what you're doing, you're moving, whether you're loading ammunition or just really in the safe position, if you keep the gun outside of coming in that 2-foot invisible hula hoop, you're going to be fine. Now, that's how a lot of people train. That's how a lot of law enforcement, special operations, military, they don't bring the gun inside their personal space. Just like you don't want people to come inside your personal space, you can't let the gun breach that invisible 2-foot hula hoop around you. Because if you do, you run the risk of shooting yourself in the foot. Some people are proponents for keeping the gun like this. I am not, because that could destroy your hearing if the gun does go off. Keep it in, you know, of course the bullet, if it say it goes off, the gun goes off and the bullet goes in the air, well, what goes up must come down, obviously, and it's going to come down with some fierce velocity. And I don't want to be around when that happens, and I don't even want to have to risk that with anybody else around or property. So keep the gun pointed down. That's the safest direction other than downrange.
The last safety tip I wanted to review, as demonstrated in this clip here, is the importance of verifying that there's no bullets in the chamber. So racking the slide 2 or 3 times is a good check and a good habit to do to verify that there's no more rounds left after you're done shooting.
Well, everybody, I hope you guys learned something. I appreciate you guys for watching this video. I'm going to go shoot a little bit more, but hey, keep in mind, safety is the most important thing. Having fun is great. Practice is great, but if you don't do it in a safe way, then you're not going to be practicing or shooting for a long time. So enjoy, God bless, and I'll catch you guys soon.